Okay. So since last week, okay, when I recorded this, I'm calling it my rant, okay? Yeah, as of this moment, 11,263 hits on this YouTube video that I posted. Which shows that, you know, this is a conversation that is very, very timely. You know, this how yoga can wreck your body and all the responses that have been generated in the yoga world, including mine. You know, and I got nothing but positive feedback from this. And because it seemed like people really wanted someone to say, hey, it's okay, you're not killing yourselves and you're not killing your students. You know, because there was some genuine fear that was generated by this article. It's like, well, what if this is really true? What if what we're doing really hurts people? You know, and I can understand that. I can understand that, you know, coming from an authoritative source like a senior science writer in the New York Times and so on, that there would be some fear. And, you know, as much as I admire the marketing strategy that they used, which was, again, as I said, brilliant, for getting the conversation started, and as much as I feel that this is a conversation that needs to be happening, you know, it's unfortunate that it is a bit fear-based. And I think a lot of people were relieved to have someone saying, hey, it's okay, you know, and these are the issues with it. One of the things I did say I would like to re-examine, because I took Mr. Broad to task for greatly underestimating the range of motion of the cervical spine in axial rotation, okay? And when I said it's more like 80 or 90, okay? There's a number from my book I was thinking of, which is 90 degrees, right? And it's right here in the second edition of the book. But the number that was in my head was 90 degrees total axial rotation. I actually have 50 degrees listed as cervical axial rotation, which is the exact number I was taking Mr. Broad to task for using in his article. Now, fortunately, and look what showed up on my desk, by the way, this week. They sent me a copy, an advanced copy of the book. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the video or not, but it was nice to get it. The first thing I did was I looked in his references and I said, oh, thank God he didn't get that number out of Yoga Anatomy. Because that would have, I'm calling this response egg on my neck. Okay. Now, I do think that we are under-reporting in that number. And we are going to redo this graphic and put it on the web as a downloadable PDF that anyone can get, and eventually we'll change it in the book itself. Because you know, it's easily demonstrable. If you just keep your sternum still, you can all do this, keep your sternum still. If you don't let it move, that means your thoracic spine isn't moving, because your sternum is connected to the top of your thoracic spine, right? If you don't let your sternum move and just turn your head to the side, where is your nose pointing? Is it more like pointing directly out over your shoulder, or is it pointing toward the corner, you know, the diagonal corner of the room? Because the diagonal corner of the room would be 45 degrees, right? If this is 0 and this is 90, halfway between the two would be 45, and 50 would be just beyond that. But I think for most of you, you're going a little further. Now, this range of motion thing expressed in numbers is a very tricky business. Not all authorities agree, and it varies quite a bit with gender and with age, and with anyone of any gender or any age from individual to individual. So I want to put it on record, this was my idea, this was not Amy's idea. Amy has nothing to do with this, okay? She doesn't like these things. She doesn't like these numbers and charts. This is in my chapter of the book, and I'm taking total responsibility for these numbers, and we are going to revise them. But I'll tell you, you know, I got them initially, you know, and we'd been using these handouts for a while, from David Gorman, who got them from Kapanji. Okay, these are the sources that list it as 50 degrees. And I think it's a little outdated at this point. Because since I realized this gaffe, I've been doing some research and found revised numbers from a lot of different studies that put it at more like 70, 80, and for some people 90 degrees just from the neck, okay? Let alone the 35 or so degrees of axial rotation you can add from the thoracic spine, and the minimal yet 5 degrees or so that the lumbar spine contributes. So most of you, without moving your pelvis, if you see how far you can twist, you're way past 90 without moving your pelvis or displacing your hip joints in any way, right? So we're going to revise these numbers, so I kind of apologize for that. I had this whole t-shirt thing worked out where, what do you think? Should we get something going and sell these? I think the meme has not yet peaked, and we can help it with some t-shirt sales.
It'd be funny if it was a patch you could sew onto the part you wrecked.
That would be interesting. Yoga wrecked me here.
Yeah.
So it could be a shoulder patch,
Like
yeah,
a patch.
or it could be like a hat, That, I like that. Should we go with that? Okay. Now there's one other piece to the conversation, okay? And I mentioned this last week. We're talking about asana practice. We're not talking about yoga. All of this, we want to be clear about that. It's not yoga can never wreck you if what you're really doing is really yoga. I would say asana practice minus yoga has the potential for hurting you. I mean, there's no question. But yoga involves a careful attention to what you're doing, and according to our tradition, an individualizing or adapting of the practice to that individual. And so if it is yoga, by definition, you're doing it in a way that is not going to trash your body. Asana practice without that kind of attention and breath-centeredness and awareness and adaptation, obviously it can hurt you like any sort of activity can hurt you. And the analogy I thought of is that, I know some doctors who specialize in treating upper extremity disorders in musicians. There's a whole institute here in New York, the Miller Institute at St. Luke's Roosevelt, that was started just to treat the performing arts community who have these issues, right? And I don't doubt that these doctors have seen a lot of repetitive strain injury in people who aren't necessarily musicians, but let's just imagine that someone who plays a lot of Guitar Hero shows up with a very similar kind of repetitive strain injury from that of a professional musician, okay? The same awareness of anatomy and the body and treatment protocols may be very, very useful for both patients, the Guitar Hero playing guy and the actual musician guy, okay? Because we end up with a lot of the similar stuff from the yoga world, okay? What I would say is that playing Guitar Hero has pretty much the same relationship to actual musicianship that what most people are doing that passes for yoga has to actual yoga practice. Now, I'm all for Guitar Hero. My kids started off with Guitar Hero, and now they're taking serious music lessons. Trust me, I pay for those lessons every month, okay? But I'm thrilled that their interest in this video game brought them to real music. And I'm equally thrilled when people who do these, whatever you're calling yoga classes, wherever they're doing them, are brought to yoga. Sometimes it's through hurting yourself or through an injury, The one thing that you don't see in the music world is that there's no one I know of that's saying Guitar Hero playing is real music. You're playing along with music with a video controller that looks like a guitar, but no one, even the kids, they know they're not playing guitar. And some of the hand-eye coordination, some of the skills and coordination that you gain when you're playing the video game may be transferable, as my children found, to some extent to learning how to play the real guitar. No one in the music world or game playing world would make that mistake or that conflation. Unfortunately, we do see it in the yoga world. You know? And sometimes when people come to us and they're hurt, doing something that they were practicing that was called yoga, we have to break the news to them. Well, okay, here's what yoga is. Here is what it feels like when you're bringing your breath and your attention and your awareness into what you're doing. And here's what it looks like. It may not be as flashy or as exciting as playing, you know, Through the Fire and the Flame on Expert. That's the hardest song on Guitar Hero, right? Look it up on YouTube. There's dozens of people who film themselves doing this. Okay? And the yoga we're going to teach you may not be as flashy as this thing that you've been doing in the gym, and you may not get as much of a workout or build much of a sweat or whatever, but it is what it is. So that was the analogy I thought of that I wanted to share with you, that occurred to me in all of these conversations we've been having. And to apologize to William J. Broad for criticizing you about the 50 degrees range of motion of the axial rotation of the spine in the cervical region, because it's in my book. So it's really disappointing when a respected authority screws up so badly, isn't it? So there you have it. And I'm in the middle of reading this. I'll have more to say when I've actually read the book. So thank you very much. See you next time, and see you on YouTube. Okay. Thanks, guys. All right.